Ladies and gentlemen, it's actually over. We said 2 days ago it's the beginning of the end. It is the end because you look at Polymarket, which, okay, maybe not the most reliable, but we'll get into that. Michigan has flipped to Donald Trump. This hasn't happened since Biden. We talked about Arizona being at the highest percentage it's been so far since Biden. Michigan hasn't been in Trump's column pretty much since July, and Trump leads Michigan. Trump also now leads Wisconsin on Polymarket, and again, our perspective is that Michigan, or Wisconsin rather, is being underestimated at large by people covering the election. Pennsylvania has gone red on the map, which means it's over 10 points. North Carolina's long gone, Georgia's long gone, and Arizona, of course, is long gone. Nevada, she still leads. But 6 out of the 7 swing states, when he only needs to win these 3 on the East Coast, it's something else. It's unbelievable. And you want to say, okay, Polymarket, maybe not the most accurate representation. Trump leads Michigan in the polling average. And it was Quinnipiac that actually put the final nail in the coffin. When we look back at this, are we going to say Quinnipiac were the pollster that put the final nail in the coffin and committed to the Trump win? Trump has not led Michigan since July 27th, which was 2.5 months ago. That was 6 days after Biden pulled out, and Trump has retaken the lead in Michigan. This is unbelievable. This is the end of the race. There's no question about it. The Hill and Emerson came out with a tie. Maybe they were seeing right-wing leads and they didn't want to commit to it, but Quinnipiac have just gone out there, and maybe, Quinnipiac, it's maybe reverse psychology trying to make them think they're more up than they are. I mean, you're really conspiracy theorying there at that point. But I mean, this whole polls section that's come out. I mean, just look at all the red. That tells you everything you need to know. We look at the Senate. Brown is up over by 2 against Moreno, which probably means Moreno's going to win there. But we have Nevada, so we can go fill out our as it wants me to import a map for some reason. But we can go ahead and fill out our election map. Unbelievable turn of events, and it is pretty much officially over. I mean, maybe now we start looking at the other states, like Alaska. Is Alaska really likely anymore, or is it safe again? We look at, okay, Texas will be under 10, there's no question. Florida, we talked about the other day, is that over 10 now? Well, we had a +4 out of Marist, but obviously Marist, definitely a left-leaning pollster, one of the most left-leaning, but +4, I still think it's probably around 10, but obviously we'll have to see the response to the hurricanes down there. But this is a major win, and again, Iowa's another one that we could look at putting in safe, because the momentum is with Donald Trump at the moment. Of course, we've seen momentum swings throughout, but is this it? I mean, we forecasted it, and we might well have been right, as maybe Minnesota might come back into play if this momentum continues. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I kind of am already, but we see here, we fill in the map, and maybe a Maine, maybe a Virginia. Well, probably Maine last out of these 3, but Virginia, New Hampshire, Maine, and Minnesota as well. Maybe they could all come back into play. So we look at the polls. We have a +6 out of Ohio by Marist. That probably means it's about +10. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put Ohio in the safe category again. I think Iowa might slightly underrun it in terms of the Republican result. So Pennsylvania, Trump leads by 1. This is kind of what I've realised with Emerson, is they're kind of putting the sensible numbers out there, saying Trump's tied in Wisconsin, saying it's a tie in Michigan. They've put a lot of ties out in Pennsylvania. Now the momentum's with Trump, they'll go +1 or +0.1 to Trump in Pennsylvania. But we look at the averages here. So Georgia's average has come down. That's probably because a big Trump lead has come out of the aggregate. But when this Fox one falls out not too long from now, it's going to be a Trump sweep of the board. Quinnipiac had Georgia at +5, and they were the ones that basically broke Georgia and said it's over. So we have Georgia, we have Arizona. These 2 states are pretty much gone. I mean, Georgia, when that +5 Quinnipiac falls out of the aggregate, it actually will only be a very narrow lead for Trump. So Maybe Georgia, the momentum's a little bit different there, but you look at Nevada still plus 1.2. Emerson had it at plus 1. So we can go ahead and put Nevada in the lean Democrat column. Again, it's never voted for Trump before, so it's really no surprise and no real great trouble to Donald Trump if he doesn't win it. You've got. So where should we go next? We'll go. Well, obviously Arizona is a locked down state. So the Sunbelt states over there are sorted. So now we move over to the east of the country, and we've got Georgia plus 1 for Trump. We've got Georgia plus 1 in the Republican affiliated poll. We have North Carolina plus 1. Again, Emerson going with the sensible numbers. Michigan's a tie. That means Trump's probably winning. And Wisconsin is a tie, which 100% means Trump is leading if all polls were tied in Wisconsin. So Georgia again is still over 1 point, but it will be. That is something to keep an eye on. Is this Quinnipiac poll falling out, because plus 5 is going to make a big old difference to these numbers. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But at the moment, Georgia's safe, or one of the safest states for Republicans. Then we have North Carolina, which is still at plus 0.6. But I mean, every poll has Trump leading by 1 to 2 points, apart from Atlas, who again were kind of all over the place. So North Carolina is probably tilting still. I wouldn't call it a lean; I'd say it's a tilt still. You look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania plus 0.3 to Trump, but that's with a lot of ties. Well, actually, the ties have fallen out of the aggregate now. But that's with a Bloomberg plus 5, which is there's no way that's realistic. And of course, we've had the maybe you could call it a response bias in the polling with Trump's Butler return in Pennsylvania, but it's certainly, and I think throughout the whole cycle, it's felt like maybe there was a week or so where Pennsylvania did actually look like it was going blue, but really over the whole cycle, Pennsylvania has looked like it was going to tilt red, and I think the polls suggest that. We can look over the history of the state. Basically, late August, Harris took a big lead. That's probably, I mean, she took a 0.8 lead, so that's definitely just a massive poll. Like one massive poll that had Harris probably up by 5 that swung it that way. And then again, we see that poll probably falls out of the aggregate. So it ties back up again. Then we go to here where Harris leads, but again, it didn't feel real, and it would be good if we could see the polls actually from that time, because well, actually we do have some of them here. Bloomberg again, Harris plus 5, but now you've got these Republican polls in there to balance it out. So look, Pennsylvania is probably going to go red at this point. Of course, we've talked about Wisconsin. We think it's a lean state, and I'm going to stick by that. And hey, I think I might have been right. We were ahead of the curve on that one, I guess you could say. Michigan also at a tie again. So we can actually break down the polls here. So Rasmussen had it at a tie. This was when Michigan looked like it was going blue. So having a tie was quite bold, and they may have toned that result down. It may have been a Trump lead, but they toned it down to be more in line with everyone else. Not that Rasmussen has really got a reputation for caring about that. Bloomberg had it at plus 3, but they had Harris at 50 points. Cook Political Report had Harris at plus 3. So this is again when the momentum was all with Harris, but then you see this Atlas poll that had Trump leading by 4 in Michigan. I don't know about that, but they would again definitely ahead of the curve and open the door to the Republican leads, because you had New York Times CNN had Harris plus 1. That was the safe poll, and again, if it's a safe poll, that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It just means that it's safe. And Trafalgar, the Republican internal or Republican affiliated, plus 2 to Trump. So after the Atlas one, then they put their poll out. Then you had, and you could see they took their sample after, so they saw the Atlas poll and they got on their own. You see, I think this is not Detroit Free Press, or maybe it is. It doesn't really matter. It's Trump plus 1, and then Quinnipiac is plus 4. So this is a weird one, and then Emerson had it at a tie. But Quinnipiac having it at +4. I mean, Quinnipiac are either really unusually far to the right, or and most of the time, they're over to the left by a significant margin. They don't seem to run it down the middle very often. And I'm going to make the call now, if Trump's leading Michigan, Trump's going to take Michigan. If he's leading it in the polls, he's going to take it. And that would be this is what we were seeing in July. This was just before Biden dropped out. This was the map. And maybe you could say Nevada was red at that point. You could say Minnesota was a little bit more in play. Virginia, maybe even Republican at that point. And Maine was definitely closer to being in play. But you're like 2 points off in all of these states to being where you were against Joe Biden, who was just completely unfit to run and still is unfit to lead the country. But Harris, I mean, her media tour has done her no good, and Joe Biden contradicting her and overrunning her, and she said Ron DeSantis didn't take her call, but that's because Ron DeSantis was taking a call with the actual president of the United States. So it's all just capitulating at the seams for Harris, and I think it's officially, I mean, we coined it 2 days ago. Now we can kind of embrace the result that is Donald Trump winning this election. Of course, the momentum shifted to Harris before, but the difference is Democrats usually lead the polls. There's more liberal pollsters in the polling world than there are right-leaning pollsters. So that's part of the reason. Also, you've got your Trump voters that don't tell anyone they're going to vote Trump because of the social connotations to it. And they come out on election day, they give Trump the result. We saw in 2020 how close he was, depending on what you think about that. And in 2016 he came in, he took a massive win in all the states he needed. He won North Carolina. It's not like Donald Trump, just got by in 2016. He decimated the polls, and he did so not to the same degree because they'd kind of tried to learn their lesson, but they still underestimated Donald Trump massively in 2020. And again, are they going to try and avoid that happening for the third time? Probably, but I doubt they would be overestimating Donald Trump. You just can't reach those silent Trump voters. And this is the map that you get with the polling. With polls, Trump is at 306. That's unbelievable. But anyway, guys, this is a massive shift in the election. We see Michigan flipping to Donald Trump and the Republicans at the moment. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe for the British perspective on American politics. And I'll see you guys with another video in short order. Thank you for watching.